Here we go.
You really think you have a chance against us, Mr. Cowboy?
Hey, motherfucker. What you like to do?
Oh, I don't know. Play chess. Screw.
Well, let's play chess.
They give off to Jonathan Taylor. Jump cutting his way close to the goal line. He's in there. Touchdown. I-N-D-Y. Jonathan Taylor.
Wheeler finds Clark from the logo.
Here's Halliburton into the front court. Mishandled it, but gets a shot. Hits it. Hits it.
John, I have never been better to be on the air with you here in Indianapolis, a place where so many of my dreams have come true.
The Ride with JMV on 93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
All right, let's get going here on this Tuesday. Thank you very much for being a part of this. It's kind of weird. This whole thing over here sounds like it did that time when somebody's kid turned this down. So I don't know if this is working. Hopefully I'm coming loud and clear to you right now on a dreary, very much November Tuesday afternoon. Thank you all for joining us on a Thanksgiving holiday week. We love that. We'll close it out early coming up tomorrow on the road on a Bud Light Blue Wednesday with Colts-Texans tickets to give away and the annual event that we have at Brothers in Broad Ripple. Very excited about having you there. And I want to see everybody there too. I've got bullseye passes to give away. Now, this is going to be actually for the bullseye party coming up on Sunday before the Texans game. I know it's been a while since we've done that, considering it's been a while since the Colts have played at Lucas Oil Stadium. But we got that for you coming up today, and we do have a lot of busy conversation happening. I mentioned Seth Payne, the former defensive lineman. He's a part of the Believe podcasting network, will join us coming up in the 5 o'clock hour. What exactly is real and the truth presently about the Texans? And, what? Because, face it, it's not like you've concentrated and watched strictly what the Texans have been doing recently. Maybe you did on Thursday night. But really, you haven't paid a lot of attention. You're hearing a lot of, now they're on the upswing. They still have a lot of work to do. The more pressing issue is directly in the rear view, that of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Now, the thing about the Colts, you're going to get the opportunity to address both of those coming up in the next 2 weeks. So this is where, and if you guys want to revert back to last Thursday, when Cam Bynum was on the show and brought up and made my points about must-win situations and saying it doesn't matter what week it is. These are all big games. Some of these games are going to be magnified more than the others. These next two, Houston on Sunday at Lucas Oil Stadium and at Jacksonville a week later, those are going to be magnified. And we can think all we want about being the best in the AFC and the start of the season and now who's in front of you and New England and all of that. You think all about that you want. But this is still a pressing matter and a pressing need to win the division for the first time since 2014. Has to happen. That's the first things first. We can talk about where you're going to be in the grand scheme of things later on, as far as the AFC landscape is concerned. But we're talking about right here and right now. Now, that conversation happens with Seth Payne. We'll do that coming up in the 5 o'clock hour. Rake straw, because we've got state football finals coming up Friday and Saturday. Speaking of traditions and annuals, that is it. A Friday and a Saturday, 3 games apiece. IHSAA.org to make sure you have your tickets right now. And we have, as I often like to reference, some humdingers going on. James, get some basketball on this TV too, man, would you please? Live action hoops means turn this damn thing on. So we got that working for us. And then we had the Pacers last night. I will say this. The least you can ask for is what you got. And a team not giving up. Now, there have been moments where, like, for example, going out west and gagging up 152 and looking like that, looking like you did in Phoenix. There are some moments to where you kind of wonder where everything is with this group. There are other moments like last night, and I don't fall into the category saying, hey, that was a really good try. Hey, that was a valiant effort. That's the least that you can ask for. In fact, I think the way that the Pacers are supposed to play, that's what you should expect. That's, in fact, what you have to expect. You did get that last night. I don't know how many different people had sent me messages saying, all right, this is it, I'm done. And yeah, Siakam got fouled on that Mathurin 3 for the tie. The potential rebound. Two of the clowns look at one another, and two clowns decide they just don't want to play any longer and go down to the other end. You know how that works out. It's funny. That was the Scott Foster-led crew, and Scott Foster's not the one I have a problem with. I mean, that was just like one in a moment. The Nimhard pulling out the chair being called a foul is high-level jackassery by the gray shirts, but we come to expect that. And that's not the ultimate issue. The ultimate issue is they are more than a man down, but the least that you expect with this group is what you got last night. And they did battle. They battled against a team that had won 12 consecutive, now 13. That is, at least so far, among the best, not just in the Eastern Conference, but in the NBA. They battled. But again, that is the least of what you should expect. That's what you got. Other than that, it does sound like it's tough for me. Begrudgingly, I go there because I'm also the guy that absolutely hates a lot of the nerdy dialogue that I have to hear, that I've heard so frequently over the years. Entertaining losses, for example, draft capital. All that nerd stuff that normally is carried in the backpack of one big damn loser or nerd. And I hate that, and you should hate that. I think we all collectively should hate it. But these aren't circumstances that were created by bad choices, bad maneuvers. These are circumstances that were created because somebody hates our guts. Some basketball god, I don't know, the basketballist. Who's the basketball god? Who's the sports god up there? Whoever the god of sports is, for some reason, wants to dangle a little something out there. Wants to, like for me, when I'm 12, you're going to dangle that Bo Derek Playboy, and I'm going to go reaching for it, and then you're going to go ahead and reel that bad boy in, and I'm left with Mad Magazine. Thanks a lot. Yeah, I don't know who's the god of basketballists. So that doesn't work either? We got no electricity over there?
That TV may be done.
Good. So no TV, no second-level parking, because I know it's waterfront, and there's a dude out back on the back deck, and then when you flush the toilets in here, it sounds like a sad trombone. Sweet.
Yeah, this whole building's just doing great right now.
Great job. But yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of joking about us, being the butt of whatever tremendous trick this is. But you do have to understand, we didn't really get that chance to enjoy it. And hopefully the Colts don't follow a similar path. I mean, you get out there and you're 8-2 and everybody's feeling good, and then all of a sudden now everybody's questioning everything. I will say this, the Pacer season, the way that thing went, it is still worth it. I will still be forever grateful for Tyrese Halliburton. You talk about a dude of dudes that lays it all out there. I mean, that cliche is so often I'm going to put it all on the line today. And, I mean, it could be just about our loathsome jackass kind of existence. What are we putting it on the line? My man did right there. That is all glory. But when you look at it, it does seem that most incredibly bad situations always seem fitting. In the realm of Cinderella, the slipper always fits in terms of negativity, especially injury negativity here. It's weird, right? But no, that's what you expect last night. You just would like to see these guys. I'll give you a great example. Like, you watch Pascal Siakam, he works his ass off every game. And you can tell he knows it's not like last year. He knows that if he doesn't do it, or maybe one or another, maybe one of three. I know that Jarris Walker had a nice night last night, but that's not something you can hold your breath on. But he knows that if not him or maybe another, then it's probably not going to happen. And it's just drastically different to watch it. Like, the whole operation is just weird. You go, oh. I mean, sometimes you do find yourself going, like possession-wise. Do you remember how many possessions, especially in the postseason, they were so beautiful? It was a beautiful brand of basketball. And I hate it now that everybody's trying to blame all these injuries on pace of play. Well, I guess we're all supposed to play slow break now. Wait until the ball gets past the half court before you actually can go to work because we don't want to get anybody injured. So that's being the blame. But it was such a beautiful brand of basketball, and you can tell not only beautiful, but appealing to the eye and to the basketball consumer, but also effective by the way that you see everybody kind of copying off of that. You look around the NBA, the pace of play is up. Yeah, I know for sure now it's passing the eyeball test for me because that's all I do is watch the NBA free channel that I get. All the channels. I was watching the Blazers and the Bucks last night. That is pretty funny to watch that without Giannis. Hey, the Bucks without Giannis looks like the Pacers right now. True story. They are nothing. That's why that thing is going to be the biggest disaster when his rear end leaves, vacates the premises in Wisconsin. That is going to be an ugly situation. So the TV's just broken, huh? We got a broken TV in here?
Seems like that thing may be on its last legs. I'm going to leave it unplugged for a little while and then plug it back in and see if that magically fixes it.
Does it normally do that? Or are you a TV repairman all of a sudden?
Well, that's how I got it to work yesterday. I unplugged it, left it unplugged for about 30 seconds, plugged it back in, and it turned on.
Ooh, you're Arthur Fonzarelli over there, knock on the side of it, and this comes on. That conversation coming up, too. Greg Rakestraw, as I mentioned, bottom of the hour. Old Oaken Bucket game. Anybody dig this thing on a Friday night? We didn't go extensively into that at all yesterday. Maybe a little bit. I think Don and I did. Did we not have that conversation a bit, I think, on Friday? Me and Don and Denary at the District Tap. Do we dig that on a Friday? I can't imagine that Boilermaker fans dig it at all. Then why would you? Yeah, I saw where Barry Odom had suggested that he is a believer in the upswing of this. That's one thing that I want to do with Purdue football at some point, and the time is not now, certainly. But at some point, I do want to go over exactly where you believe this thing to be. Is it in a better position, or is it in a better position because it's not in a similar position as it was this time a year ago? Just out of curiosity. Are you on the right track? Can this evolve into something that you've come to trust, like you trust Matt Painter and the basketball team? Can you trust it? Again, that's not a Q&A for today, but at some point, yes. Yeah, I wanted to know about the Friday night affair here. You digging on the Friday night thing? It does give you the entirety of the rest of the weekend, doesn't it? What, cold? Snow? I don't know. What's the weather forecast on Friday in West Lafayette, James? Look it up. Your AccuWeather forecast, weather radar. Dual Doppler power, please.
Friday, it's looking like a high of 31 degrees, partially cloudy.
31 degrees. I can't lie. The bros, the smiley bros, made fun of me on Sunday still. And one of the bros consistently still angered with me because a year ago we go to the Bucket game, and I go with the bros. And remember, in Bloomington, it was freezing cold and snowing sideways. So we got to Bloomington and went to the Crazy Horse, and I sat down at the Crazy Horse bar on a stool and never moved again. And I think one of the bros specifically was angered because we didn't go to the game. But I was incredibly comfortable at the Crazy Horse on that bar stool. That is a true story. All right, we got that for you. Bucket game conversation with Greg Rakestraw. High school football finals coming up with Greg Rakestraw. IU in action coming up later on tonight. The hoops, the level of play will get as Don Fisher told you back on Friday, will get a little bit more entertaining coming up later on tonight. Now, it's Kansas State. I mentioned this because I went to our table with Don and Susie Fisher after he was on the air with us at the District Tap on Friday. And I'm just sad about this because I don't know how many years he was involved, but it seems like every time you turned around, you saw him. You guys remember the name Coleman Hawkins, right? I think Coleman Hawkins is now somewhere in the G League. Coleman Hawkins was most notably for a number of years at Illinois. But my man could not keep it between the lines. He was a on-the-court ticking time bomb. And honestly, he wasn't our problem, wasn't my problem, wasn't your problem, so I didn't care. I just was always interested to see how and when that thing might blow. And I'm going to miss that because he's not a part of that. If you remember, he transferred to Kansas State. I don't think it went like he thought it was ultimately going to go. And kind of crapped out. Coleman Hawkins. You know, in this era in which you can basically stay eligible for 25 years, he was a significant part of that, was he not? P.J. Haggerty is the dude that you want to keep an eyeball on, IU fans, later on tonight, because he is a high-volume shooter and a high-volume scorer. He has an ultra green light, which automatically, as somebody that loves basketball and loves offense especially, gives me a sports arousal. P.J. Haggerty, 28 points per game, the Memphis transfer. Got some cash. 28 a game. It'll be hard targeting P.J. Haggerty coming up later on tonight. But I will be sad because we're not going to see Coleman Hawkins. I could not be alone on that. You watch games specifically to see if that guy might go crazy. Might just lose it. 6'10"? Could do some things too, but the thing he was most noted to do was blowing a stack. I'm going to miss that. That conversation coming up again. IU, I think that's an 8 o'clock start later on tonight, so 7 o'clock right across the hall, 93 WIBC for IU and Kansas State. Another glorious afternoon, if we could watch it and the TV worked. Another glorious afternoon of basketball collegiately, another glorious evening of basketball. And for those of you that always want to punish the Boilermaker basketball program for something, chill out. Gonzaga beating Alabama doesn't take anything away from Purdue going to Tuscaloosa. I don't know why I feel compelled to have to explain this to you, but for a couple, I guess I do. It takes nothing away. Gonzaga's legit. Alabama's still going to be legit. It gives more fire for Nate Oates to go crazy on his guys like he did after the Boilermaker loss at home. And I did watch that. Actually, I ended things last night. I was watching Maryland and UNLV deep into the night. Do we like this players era thing? I don't mind it. Normally, the old school, the crusty fart, doesn't like it. doesn't dig a lot of things about today. Now, granted, it doesn't take long for you to sell me on watching basketball, right? I'm front and center on it. But when things change, especially as dramatically as they have for, say, in the past 10-plus years, when they change like this, there are some things that you just don't like. Like, I'm assuming a lot of you, like I asked that question about the bucket game on a Friday night. I should put that in the form of a poll, P-O-L-L question. Do you like it on a Friday night? I mean, either way, it's going to match up against a high school football state championship day. Even if it were in the afternoon. Do you like it on a Friday night? All right, give me the reasons why you do and you don't. And we'll just go ahead and cobble together a discussion about that. I mean, hell, especially with this, the way that it looks, the way these two teams don't match up. And if you go on how things went in Bloomington a year ago, I mean, it gives you the opportunity to really soak up the entirety of the weekend. Right? Right. We got to that coming up as well at 239-1070. Hey, text line is wide open at 317-239-1070. I will be utilizing that to get you some bullseye passes for this Sunday before that Texans game. Yeah, I know we still had the Big Ten championship game passes to give away. It would be the ultimate, though. I know. A couple of Boilermaker fans said, would that not be the ultimate? The ultimate take on IU? If you could pull off the most improbable upset in the history of that series, that'd be something. That would be something. Now, you'd have to look, for example, a little bit better than you have in the last 2 months. But anything's possible, right? Yeah, last 2 months? Probably so. Pretty close to it. Maybe not all the way 2 months, but pretty damn close to it. And Boilermaker fans, they're not for today, but just think about that and you can answer further down the road. Your head coach and how you're feeling. Indiana High School Basketball Hall of Fame. I cannot believe that Jay Edwards was not already a part of that. Like, for me, you take basically anybody, but especially the best of the best from Purple Rain, the back-to-back-to-back Marion Giants, automatically you should be in the Hall of Fame. How has this not taken place quicker, more expeditiously? Just out of curiosity, I don't know. I know Rick Fox had to deal with eligibility stuff at Warsaw. I would put him in just because of him just completely out-kicking the coverage with Vanessa Williams. That was a shout-out right there, buddy. Like, he'd go in for that. If I get in for scoring 11 second-half points after passing a kidney stone against Shaq and Mac when I was a sophomore, he should go in for the Vanessa Williams grab right there. But it is more about basketball. But, yeah, Jay Edwards, I would have thought, Jay, I don't keep track of this. I don't know. I mean, Greg Rakestraw could probably answer it. I don't know, but how Jay Edwards not already in there? Jay Edwards is awesome. Was and is one of my all-time favorites. I love those Marion teams. And note this, I mean, they were so dominant. But you talk about just forever type of memorable players' names and how good they were. And it makes you think about that particular area, whether it was Marion or the Muncie schools back then. Oh, my goodness. Anderson in all the high schools, Madison Heights, Highland, Anderson itself. Yeah, it was a glorious time. I know. I sound exactly like Goodfellas right there. Ray Liotta. A glorious time. All right, quick break. We shall return. This is going to be the place to watch IU basketball tonight. Lake Holcomb, Wisconsin. So, evidently, my man here is at Lake Holcomb, Wisconsin, where on the big screen presently, he's got a photo on the bar of a Busch Light draft. I called it Busch Light draft back in the day. That was our go-to. At Indiana State, that was the go-to. I would always go, back in the day, then I would go to the party cask, and we'd get a keg of Busch Light draft, and then when I was in the keg room, I would take off one of those plastic lids that said Heineken, and then I would roll up to the party with the Heineken lid on it and go, hey, we're having Heineken, man. We're from Greene County. We're above it all here. Look how elite we are. When really it would be Busch Light draft. And it really would take you about 5 seconds to recognize that that's not Heineken, because Heineken kind of tastes like skunk. I don't know what Busch Light draft tastes like, but Busch Light draft is right there on the bar. Evidently, they're watching Fox News in this bar right here. Lake Holcomb, Wisconsin is the place to be. This is, according to the text line. I buy that. If you guys want to jump on there, you can. 317-239-1070. That is the text line. Weird Al tickets coming up a little bit later on. Bullseye passes coming up a little bit later on. His name, Seth Payne. Don't confuse him with Max Payne, because I think that was his particular era. Max Payne was the video game. About the same time I think he was in the NFL.
I'm actually surprised you even know what Max Payne is.
I Googled a little bit earlier, and it came up first.
Gotcha.
Max Payne was a video game, though, right?
Yeah, it was.
Did you do a lot of that on Friday and Saturday nights?
I played a little bit of it when I was younger, yeah.
Were you not out, like, trying to track down some...
I mean, not when I was 14.
You weren't?
No. I was playing video games, man.
The girls are all calling... This is horrible. This is who I was back in the day. Anybody else play this role? I was the girls interested in my friend go-between. There's nothing worse than being that guy.
You were the good friend.
I was the good friend. And he's still my good friend today. He just had a birthday yesterday, number 56 for David Hayes. David Brent Hayes, who was that guy, I've explained this before, who always did the deed and got everybody else in trouble. Always. And he always skated. Always. Yep. Out past curfew. Yeah, David Hayes is there. Didn't get busted. Everybody else did. We're all running stair laps. David Brent Hayes doing nothing. I was the go-between. I really like him. Does he like me? All these conversations. On a cord phone, laying in the kitchen floor, it was just a horrible existence.
It's a thankless job.
Yeah. No wonder I've just spent decades now trying to get payback. Quick break. We'll come back to stream the app. It's HD radio, man. You can dial that in if you want. Let's say, for example, on a day like today, normally, you know what I feel about some of the signals here? A day like today can be a struggle. Make sure you dial in HD radio, 93.1 if you have HD radio capabilities. It is absolutely crystal clear. You can detect the hillbilly in my voice easier than usual. HD Radio. AAA Membership Lounge via YouTube Live. Thank you all for joining us. It's 93.5, 107.5 The Fan.
Ding dong.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Hey, welcome back. We got a lot to do today. Seth Payne joining us a little bit later on. All hail the multi-sport athlete. For those of you out there that try to squeeze your athletes, young athletes, into doing one thing, you know what? Smooch that. Multi-sport all the way on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. Greg Rakestraw, the pride of Lanesville, Indiana. Hallelujah to the multi-sport athlete.
Well, thank you, John. I was one. I think you were one as well at Eastern Green.
I was a half-assed multi-sport athlete. But I was there. Multi-sport indeed. Nah, the David Bell stuff, he was one of my favorites all the time around here, Greg. He really was. He was fun to watch no matter what he was doing.
And for the greatness of David Bell as an athlete, winning a state championship in 2 different sports, maybe the thing that's most memorable about David to me is the fact that with the class in which that he handled Jack Kaiser winning Mr. Football when so many people around here were losing their heads about it.
Yeah.
And I said, listen, David's a hell of a player. Jack Kaiser is too. The thing you should be most upset about, the fact is that George Karloftis wasn't even a finalist. And all 3 of those guys made the National Football League. So I know David's career did not go as anticipated or hoped. Again, you touched on the reasons from an injury standpoint behind that. But the fact that all 3 of those guys had great college careers, are able to make their living playing professional football, shows that class was pretty special in terms of high school football back in the fall of 2018.
Greg, I asked this question a little bit earlier. Do we like the Friday night bucket encounter?
I mean, there's college football takes over this entire weekend, not really from a Thursday standpoint,
Right.
but from a Friday and Saturday standpoint. The thing with both of them having the bye week this past week, I would have been kind of like, hey, why don't we just play the game on Saturday and give those 2 teams Thanksgiving weekend off? But that's not the way that it's going to go, just because you're not going to have that bye on a regular basis. You don't get out of the habit of, from a college football fan standpoint, letting people know that Thanksgiving weekend is rivalry weekend in the Big Ten. But I guess what I would say is this, John, there was kind of some knee-jerk reaction when that game was moved to Friday night of, we're going to high school football. Well, there's literally not a window that it's not going to be opposite one of the high school state finals at Lucas Oil. So on a Friday night, the more the merrier. Let's go.
I am definitely a knee-jerker when it comes to reaction. You know that to be true, Greg.
I understand.
On the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. I'll double back to the bucket game in a second, but let's get the high school football stuff. Friday, you get Maryville, New Pal, 5A. We'll start there because that's a late game, but certainly New Pal has had just an absolute dominant path. Does that maintain through this championship game Friday night?
The good news for New Pal is I think having seen gets them prepared for Maryville. Maryville plays a very good 5A schedule, because the Duneland Conference has Crown Point, which is 6A and a good team, Lake Central and Portage, which are 6A and not as good at the 6A level. But a lot of the top teams in 5A, they play in the northern half of the draw. New Pal's schedule sometimes isn't that strong, but they're so good, I'm not sure its thinking matters. The one thing that New Pal can accomplish that has not been accomplished before, and part of this is having a classification of 32 or 33 teams, 1/3 of the schools are ranked. New Pal wins this game as Friday, as they're expected to. They would be the first team to beat nothing but ranked competition on their way to a state championship. Plainfield, Cathedral, East Central, Wilmington South, and Maryville are all in the top 10. No team has accomplished that. New Pal has that chance when they are playing for that on Friday night. And, John, the other stat that I will throw at you, if New Pal wins this game, it would be the 5th state championship for Kyle Ralph, with his team being unbeaten. The other 2 guys that have pulled off that feat are Dick Dullahan and Bud Wright.
Man,
I think that kind of tells you all you know about what Kyle Ralph has done in a little more than a decade as the head coach at New Pal.
Well, and that speaks to something else. Where's my Dick Dullahan call? I don't think Dick's called in the show the last 2 weeks. He has called in, Greg, the month of November twice. And both times, as you would well know, absolutely tremendous. So I'm thinking, I'm thinking maybe we've sparked Dick Dullahan call a little bit later on today, hopefully.
Well, he might be back down in Florida by this point in time. I'm not sure. Maybe that's why he hasn't called in a couple of weeks. But I've got several Dick Dullahan stories as his radio partner for several years here on the Fan on Friday night. But here's the one that I will tell you. Remember, we used to do this big production to kind of get the sales staff all fired up for the upcoming season.
Right.
And we would take the sales staff off-site, do something cool, et cetera. We tried to find different speakers for him every year. And one year it was Dick Dullahan. And literally every member of our sales staff, this is in my PD days at the Fan, got up and shook his hand and gave him a hug after the end of the speech. So not only could he make football players run through a wall, he could make our sales staff do the exact same thing.
One of the greatest dudes of all time.
Yep.
And, really on a day like today, you know this to be true. The app is much greater than the two signals here anyway, so hopefully he's listening, Florida or not.
There you go.
It would be all good. All right, so Lures, Greg, they ended up derailing the Miles McLaughlin train. We saw that last week. Meantime, Cascade and Gibson Southern had just an absolute Saturday night classic environment. These two teams meet up in 3A at 3 o'clock Friday.
Yeah, Lures, again, the slayers of Knox. And again, Lures, just like, they, Modern Day, maybe to a lesser degree, Andrean, who's playing the 2A final, teams that benefit from playing large school competition. You can throw the records out because you know how good a schools are going to play on a regular basis. Cascade, almost in a one-year fashion, is kind of the new PAL route. And what I mean by that is this. Cascade did not play the greatest schedule this year. They were part of a new league called the Monon Athletic Conference that really had Southmont that was a solid team, had Weibo that's good every year. None of those teams came close to touching Cascade. Their best two games of the season were the first two games of the season, which were against Monrovia and Danville. The Danville game was competitive, and it was also a harbinger of what maybe that Gibson Southern game was going to look like because Danville played both of those teams the first 2 weeks of the season. Cascade loves to run the wing T. They love to run plays quickly, and I think having played Gibson Southern, that will help prepare them for Lures. Lures will be more athletic, but Gibson Southern was pretty doggone good. I think that 3A game, like a lot of the games this weekend, John, is almost a toss-up.
Greg, the first thing I think about when I hear or see the word Cascade?
And that would be what?
Well, now it would be an EDM artist, but that starts with a K. But
right.
No, Cascade and its sheeting action. Remember the sheeting action of the dishwashing? I never understood what sheeting action is, and maybe this Cascade football team could take over that particular term. They got some sheeting action going on there.
Would you like me to explain to you as to why their name is Cascade, why that was the name of the conglomeration of three different towns?
It has nothing to do with Cascade's sheeting action.
I shit you not. This is exactly how it played out. So they wanted to have the names of the towns that were formerly their own high schools.
Yeah.
When they merged, I want to say back around 63 or 64. So Clayton, Amo, Stylesville make up Cascade, CAS, hence the name of the Cascade Cadets.
That's beautiful right there. Greg Rakestraw with the ultimate Cascade knowledge on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. South Putt and Pioneer, familiar territory for Pioneer, Greg.
Correct. It's been a few years again since the heydays of Jack Kaiser and just after that, but Adam Berry can really coach. And again, Pioneer, they expect to make deep runs in the tournament. South Putnam has been knocking on the door, and they have been kind of held up by some parochial powers. First it was Lutheran, and they were in Lutheran sectional for a couple of years in 1A. Then last year going down to Providence, and, Providence was thought to be, kind of cannon fodder for North Judson St. Pierre. Turned out, no, they were the state champs that South Putnam ran into down in New Albany last year. South Putnam has been building for this moment for quite some time. They have the second leading rusher in the state, John, who is only 2,300 yards back of Miles McLaughlin if he tries to pass him in terms of coming up in Friday's game. Again, John, I think that's a toss-up type of game, but I know Chuck Sorrell's team at South Putnam is really, really good. But because they're playing Pioneer, I think that's going to be an outstanding 1A game to kick things off Friday at 11 a.m.
All right, Saturday, 2A, and then Duran and Brownstown Central at 11 a.m. How about 4A, Dwenger and Roncalli? This has been, from somebody that knows and loves the folks at Roncalli, just one hell of a run for the Royals. Has it not been this season?
Correct. When Roncalli and Dwinger played in week number 1, this was a new game on the schedule. For years, Roncalli and Southport had kicked off the season against each other. That game goes away. Roncalli plays one of their Catholic brethren to the north. When that game finished 3-0, John, I'm not sure many folks thought, you know what, maybe we'll see this game in the state championship again. Roncalli was beaten by Chittard in week number 3, 33-11. Chittard had frankly shown no signs of weakening. Maybe the fact that Roncalli handled East Central in week number 9 should have tipped us off that, hey, maybe there's something special that Sam Otley is putting together down at Roncalli. And here they are for the first time in 5 years playing for a 4A championship. But again, the unique nature of that game being so close and so competitive in week number 1. Stop if you've heard this before, John. I think this is going to be a really competitive state championship game on Saturday afternoon.
Well, how about 6A? The Oscar of Fry, who seems like an all-time great dude. I did not know until Dan Osborne told me that's his grandson. That's outstanding. Dan and Sarah's grandson. Westfield and Brownsburg. Westfield being there, especially after that play versus Carmel, is pretty interesting, too. What a great 6A matchup.
Absolutely. And it was a pretty good matchup last year in the state championship game. It was a really good matchup in week 6. And I think Westfield is a better team than they were in week 6 because they were so young at the offensive skill position. You know, they're playing now the younger brother of last year's starting quarterback in the Melvin kid that's a sophomore. But Aiden Grabowski is still getting snaps as a senior. And frankly, what Josh Miracle in Westfield is doing offensively is almost a carbon copy of what Brownsburg did last year between Stevens and Fry rotating at the quarterback position. There's a lot of talent on this Westfield team, and a lot of young men with last names you might know, like Ballard, Snow, and June, that all have ties to the Indianapolis Colts. And Justin Snowstun Caden is just a freshman, and he is really good at the tight end position. Brownsburg is just so stinking solid. There's not a weakness on that team 1-22 and on special teams either. Nothing flashy. They just go out and get it done. So cue the refrain, John. I expect this to be a really competitive state championship game, and I am lucky enough to have the call of both the 5A and 6A game from the video side on the IHSAA Champions Network coming up on Friday and Saturday night.
Well done, my brother, too, and just hold off for the next month, and the JMV Takeover will be back Wednesday. This year is New Year's Eve.
When Fernando Mendoza wins the Heisman, I am calling you on Saturday night, December the 13th, and just wherever you are, asking you to play Fernando from ABBA the way you did for me on Saturday night. So thank you very much for that.
Yeah, brother. Appreciate you, man. Have a great week.
See you, buddy.
Happy Thanksgiving to Greg Rakestraw. We'll take a quick break. We'll come back. James, you got to cue up the old school Cascade with sheeting action commercial. If you haven't already located that, that's outstanding. Shout out to Cascade. Man, that environment looked great. Gibson Southern, Cascade, looks like all of Hobstadt. Actually, all of Gibson County. I don't know. Did the Toyota plant have to shut down when everybody came? That was incredible. Quick break, we'll come back. I don't know. I think we're like plumb naked in the 4 o'clock hour. So a lot of Meehan and Ewan coming up after 4. That'd be great, too. And Seth Payne, former Texans defensive lineman of the Believe Podcasting Network, joins us after 5. The believability of the Texans coming in here on Sunday. That and more. Don't go anywhere. 93.5, 107.5 The Fan.
With JMV.
You take drugs, Danny? Every day. Good. So what's the problem? I don't know.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Just like regular Cascade, Lemon Scent Cascade has sheeting action that leaves glasses virtually spotless.
Beautiful. You deserve a squeeze.
Regular Cascade and Lemon Scent Cascade leave glasses virtually spotless.
Shout out to Cascade, everybody. Told you. Sheeting action is what it's called. My friend Doug reminds me that Cascade is coached by Connor Simmons. New pal dude, Connor Simmons. Oh, shout out to Cascade. Man, what a great environment that was over there on Saturday. JMV, exactly what does skunk taste like? If I have to explain the smell and the taste of Heineken to you, I can if you want, but I don't think I have to. I think everybody knows that I've never tasted skunk, but I'm assuming if you were to taste skunk, it probably tastes a great deal like it smells. Right? You probably don't want me to go any more in depth in that particular discussion than I am right here. We don't need so what else? Yeah, exactly. Todd will be running down the hall in about 5 seconds. Go, hey, wait a minute. What are we doing? JMV, why is it that every time a big moment comes up, the Colts always seem to choke? Everyone is already doubting us and not taking us seriously. And yesterday, actually Sunday, this is from yesterday, proved them right again. People keep saying, they're 8-3, but we better wake up because Houston and Jacksonville are not joking around. Shane says it starts with him, but at some point we need to fix the issue from Alex. Tell you what I'll do. Alex, I'll address exactly where they are and what you're talking about coming up on the other side. Bucket game on a Friday. Do you dig? Seth Payne, former Texans defensive player, podcaster, radio dude, coming up in the 5 o'clock hour. Win Schuler's right here and right now, the elite level in spreadability and in snacking you're going to find with Win Schuler's spreadable cheeses in a variety of flavors and just what you need tonight for all this soup and all the snacking. Crackers, chips, vegetables, even burgers. The spreadability of Win Schuler's. 2025 football season and also the 2025 basketball season, which is underway. Make it Win Schuler's. Quick break. We'll come back. Your questions, 239-1070, and the text line at 317-239-1070. This is 93.5 and 107.5, The Fan.
With JMV.
Fat, drunk, and stupid is no way to go through life, son.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
The bucket game on a Friday. Who digs it? Colts and Texans. Seth Payne, less than an hour away. The former defensive lineman explains just how for real the Texans are. We watched their act last week, and they look better. We'll see about the return of Stroud. But certainly, here's what is most impactful on the surface about the Texans is that the things that have been really affecting this Colts offense is exactly what they can do. Very Pittsburgh-like. And I don't think anybody out there right now is that solid, is that confident. And all of a sudden that changing. Because you thought maybe that it would. And I think what's most disappointing, for the better part of 3 quarters, there was really no evidence that Kansas City defensively was going to be any different than what it has been this season, and that is not ample quarterback pressure. But when they started playing downhill and coming after the quarterback and sending everybody, that completely messed up the works. And that was reminiscent of a lot of what we saw at times, without the long Jonathan Taylor runs in Berlin against the Falcons, and certainly what we remember seeing against the Steelers, but without the turnovers. There was still ball security, but there was no movement of the ball as you were securing it. That's problematic, and that is a product of where this Colts team is right now. What's more the issue with it? Is the issue with the quarterback, or is the issue with the offensive line? Not all of the offensive line, but part of the offensive line. Where is the issue most prevalent? Immediately, you're going to say quarterback because clearly that has the most impact. What we witnessed, I think, was a little bit of it all on Sunday in Kansas City. We witnessed this Colts team, playing in rhythm and looking at times as we remember it in the first couple of months. But then all of a sudden you switch things up, and all you have to do so far, as we have learned, is take the Colts out of a comfort zone, take the quarterback out of a comfort zone. Now you're going to say you can do that to any quarterback, any offense, and get that desired result. But no, that's where you separate the elite level guys or the higher end guys than the guys that really struggle. And Daniel Jones has been a guy that has struggled in that category. And believe me, I'm all for blaming the offensive line too. But let's face it, this is something that absolutely has to be fixed. There has to be a solution to it. And I think yet again, we're going to have certainly going to be able to get the tail of that tape coming up on Sunday. But how legit are the Texans? I mean, they're playing for their season. There's no doubt about that. But for the Colts, when you think about it, you can't lose this on Sunday without question, and then you need to win in Jacksonville because you still the next 2 weeks you get the Texans and the Jaguars, of which you still see twice. There's no jacking around with this. There's no, I get done the math, and it's not must win. You absolutely cannot lose this. All faith is lost if you jack around and lose that on Sunday. And whether or not you want to be Shane Steichen and blame yourself, I got to be better. Let's face it, we have eyeballs. We saw also what needs to be better. There's no doubt he needs to be better. That was flawed. But the players also had flaws. I know nobody wants to blame the defense or the secondary. They were tired and all that, but I also hold that secondary to a higher standard. If I'm going to prop them up at the higher standard, I'm not going to lower the bar because they may be a little bit tired. I know, easy for me to say. Those are called expectations. If you're fluttering around 500, then you may not have those expectations. If you don't make a trade deadline deal, you don't have those expectations. You damn straight do now. Hey, if you don't want him, go back to the world of mediocrity. But if you do want him, accept the challenge. Understand what is expected of you. So, yeah, did they do anything wrong? Were they good? They were good in coverage. But I'm just here to tell you, I expect more. And I don't care what anybody says. Whether you can look it up analytically speaking and give me numbers and video points. Well, this is what was happening. They're tired. They're on the field. And look at all the time that ran off while Kansas City's offense was on the field. You have to expect more. And you expect more from the coach, too. Because this is also, at some point, you're going to say this about yourself so many times where people are going to go, all right, well, then maybe somebody else should be leading this thing. Yeah, at what point do you go, well, again? Really? How many times is this going to happen? Nope, you've created this, and that is good. But now you have to find a way to recreate it. Not to the consistent level that we saw in the first couple of months, but not to absolutely fall ass apart in the fourth quarter as they did in the overtime on Sunday. Texans 6-5, Colts 8-3, and there's still so much reason to feel good. But you also are expected, or at least I am, expected to tell you like it is too, and now all of a sudden those images are approaching closely in the rearview. And as much as you look around the landscape of the AFC, your concentration right now is to win that division for the first time since 2014. That's the priority. And you get further down that path by doing what you should do at home against the Texans. Give you a great example. There's one thing we're talking about is the defense, but the other aspect of it is who on that team has had complete and utter ownership of the Colts in recent memory? Nico Collins. It would take having like 22 dudes on the field to keep up with him in the past. You can't relive those most recent memories. Got to put that bad boy to bed. All right, 239-1070 is that number. I got time for you and I on the text line at 317-239-1070 as well. Scott at the 4 o'clock hour. Lead the way. Scott, how are you?
Thanks for taking my call. Love your show. Good to be back
brother.
in Indianapolis.
Appreciate that. Where were you? Where have you been?
I have moved to sunny Florida.
Oh, you're in Florida right now?
Just got back in town. Turned you on.
Oh, for Thanksgiving, I'm assuming. Are you going back to Florida, though?
Absolutely.
Yeah. You probably got up here for 5 minutes and said, oh, yeah, no sun, cold and wet, going to get colder. This sucks. I'm going back, right?
You're reading my mail. Hey, I think the Colts obviously are having a way better year than a lot of us thought.
Yeah.
However, we're starting to drift, and it's a drift. It's not a fall off back to where we thought they would be. You are exactly right. However, what I would say is I really don't blame the players. I thought we were creative in the first half offensively. I thought we played really well in the first half defensively. We had some really, really, really bad penalties. That's where I think the players need to get a little bit better. But our play calling, I mean, the defense didn't catch up to us. We walked back to them. Everything that we did well, we just didn't even try in the second half. And I also think when you go for it on fourth down and you take 3 or 6 points off the board twice, and then you get to overtime, you're like, hey, we'd rather have those 6 points.
It's funny when you think about it. They set a pace early, and that's what really concerns you, because when really the defense of Kansas City adjusted in the fourth, that's when the problems occurred. And it can't, to me, it can't be that easy to foobar you out of what you were doing. And you're right. I mean, everything looked good. If you could just go by those first 3 quarters, I think everybody's feeling incredibly good about it. But it's that lasting effect of the fourth and then overtime that, again, is so, Scott, reminiscent of what we saw. And they were lucky in overtime to escape in Berlin and did not but turned the ball over 6 times with Pittsburgh. So there were some similarities with how they responded to the defense in those 2 games that clearly looks like to be an issue. And until I think further warned of this, I think it's going to be an issue. I'm just going to have to see something a little bit different because it seems like that this team has been found out, has it not, on how to be dealt with if things are going well.
And I'm not a movie guy, but you are, but I'll give you a movie reference. This is the coaching version of the banana in the tailpipe. Yeah. However, you and I both have a friend who's a former college basketball coach, and if he were listening, he would say, hey, don't forget, Kansas City's got a coach too.
They do. I've heard that before. Hey, Scott, man, I'm going to hear from you again soon. Welcome back. Have a great Thanksgiving.
Thanks.
So have a great Thanksgiving. You know that your Thanksgiving festivities start at Brothers in Broad Ripple tomorrow. Yeah, maybe you didn't know that, but hopefully you're now readily aware of the fact that it starts in Broad Ripple tomorrow at Brothers. That's where it starts. Bud Light Blue Wednesday. Me and you, our friends from Zinc, Texans, Colts tickets. Oh, damn, Scorsese, you getting him zoomed in enough over there? Jesus Christ.
I'm just trying to make sure the TV isn't on behind him.
Oh, I guess you're
copyright issues.
You're being like Oliver Stone over there, making sure you get the perfect frame on Evan Sherrill, who's going to join us in just a second. JMV, you're doing your locks tomorrow. Well, it's funny you mentioned that because Larceny Bourbon Locks, Luna Azul Tequila Shots, obviously not on Thanksgiving, although it should be a Thanksgiving tradition. Yeah, next up, and I blank you not on this, I think this is brilliant. Now, it is challenging for the two FMs, and basically Whiteland's challenging for that, but it is challenging for the two FMs, but you can still get us. We are going to be a week from Thanksgiving. Larceny Bourbon Locks, Luna Azul Tequila Shots. I have never been here before, and if you have, you can explain. I have never been to the Garage in Columbus, but that's where we're going to be. That's downtown Columbus. I remember, and I can't recollect the place, but I remember being a DJ out of Bloomington, a mobile DJ, and there was a bar over there in the early to mid-'90s that played only like 60s and early 70s music. And at that time, I wasn't well versed. But I forget what it was called. But it was right there on 46, right off of 65. So I don't know, other than a Buffalo Wild Wings where we were in Columbus. This is a number of years ago. I know we've never been downtown, but the Garage with Larceny Bourbon Locks and Luna Azul Tequila Shots. That is a week from Thursday, so a week from Thanksgiving. We're back on track for those of you that are asking. And again, as I mentioned a little bit earlier, Bartholomew County, Decatur County, Jennings, Jackson, Brown, Johnson, Shelby, we're all good. Love to see you in Columbus at the Garage. That is a week from Thursday. To answer your question, JMV, this is from Matty Matt. The Colts team reminds me of the Hoosiers football team of last year. A good football team, not just ready to be elite. You know, and knowing what you know about IU right now and the position they're in makes you feel good, obviously, about their direction. And the Colts are going to have a lot of proving, Matty Matt, to, I think, get you on that particular level. But, you know, as we talked about last year with IU, and it held on, and obviously they're in an even better position right now going into the end of the season and the bucket game coming up on Friday. But you so much in this era of athletics, especially collegiately, man, you have to take care of that moment because it can change on a dime. And really, I'm probably short selling, you know, the professional aspect too, because it's funny. We talk about the Pacers and everything is going to be good when everybody gets back. I think that there's going to be some drama in how this Pacer team is going to look, you know, once Halliburton is healthy and coming back next year. Like, there's not going to be just a running it back with these dudes. Hey, you're going to put Halliburton in there. I mean, obviously, you're going to have to find a big because as much as, you know, Jay Huff can knock down some shots and maybe you feel good about last night, maybe you don't. I mean, come on. We all know what is necessary for this team. You have to have to find somebody that protects the rim, because a lot of this team that is not going to change defensively is just the way that the NBA is. Guys get around guys. Elite level guys can drive around other elite level guys. Just so you know. So at some point, you've got to find a rim protector, because these three dudes aren't. They don't have reputations either, which makes it even more magnified. But what I'm saying is, it's not going to look the same, and that's kind of what you're dealing with collegiately. Nothing is ever going to look the same, and it's going to be up to you to put together that product to be sustainable. Now, for the Colts, the reason why I always say take advantage right now is because not only you don't know what it's going to look, you're already falling right now a little bit out of joy with Daniel Jones. You don't know really what to expect coming up on Sunday against the Texans. It may be even greater coming up next year, and then you're going to have to deal with a schedule that's probably going to be more difficult. So you have to take advantage of what you can in that moment. And still at 8-3, they have set themselves up for success, but you have to follow it up. And I'm talking about the coach, too. And the coach puts it right out there, I have to be better. Well, then be better. We've heard this a number of times, be better. And don't forget about who is the MVP, who is the dude on this team. All right, so he's run into a brick wall. He's averaging 2.1 outside of his longest run of the day. But still, in 9 straight passes or whatever it was, you can probably mix him in, because it looked like that they had you figured out. Again, when things are free and clear and you're in a nice rhythm, everybody's feeling good. But when this thing gets bumpy, all of a sudden things go haywire. There has to be more even ground in that capacity. And you can never forget about who is the true MVP of the team. A little question about that. Give me Tracy up next at 239-1070. Hello, Tracy. How are you?
Good, John. How are you?
Fantastic. What's up?
Hey, just a couple of things. One thing with Steichen, and I'm to the point with him at some point that, like you just said, you can't come out and keep telling us you keep making the same mistake.
No, because we'll find somebody else that's not. That's what happens.
Well, it's like 2 years ago, the last game of the season with Houston, when it's 4th and 1, Taylor's standing on the sidelines. I mean, you go back to that play. This has been going on for like 3 years. And just somebody that's the offensive genius, you don't use your number one weapon for almost a whole half. I just don't understand that. And I'm to the point the team looks like they're pretty good. Are we to the point we need to get somebody else to take them to another level?
Well,
because are we at the level he can only get us to this point?
And as I mentioned, there's a common ground theme here, Tracy, and he's got to find the common ground between, being free and easy and in rhythm, and then to be able to adjust when things get tough. Because, I would argue about him, and he's not going anywhere. Don't get me wrong. But I would also argue that has been an issue with what he is trying to do is clock management. Because part of the whole Daniel Jones throwing it as much as he did and having 4 3-and-outs and not running any clock late in that game, late in the fourth, part of that issue was passing it so much. I mean, you also have to understand clock and score, and that wasn't the first time. You go back to the Denver game, there was a problematic point in that Denver game as well. So that's not the first time of that. Yeah.
But the other day when there was 5 minutes to go and the Colts got the ball back, I expected to run the ball 3 plays in a row. We threw it 3 times in a row, and the first play was in a triple coverage. I mean, I'm just looking there going, how could we be this stupid? This game ain't rocket science. It really isn't. It ain't that hard to figure out if you look at and watch it every week. Yeah. I know they try to stand at the podium and tell you that they're geniuses and the rest of us don't know crap, but it ain't really that hard to figure out.
Well, I will tell you this. I think it comes natural to everybody out there, unless you're incredibly cool and collected. When things get a little dicey, you can outthink yourself. Yeah, I mean, these guys.
Yeah, and
I think that's probably more common. That's more common, I think, in any level of coaching than anything is kind of outthinking yourself, just thinking too much about it and not going with. You mentioned, even we know this. So do they. But sometimes you end up outthinking yourself on some things, and maybe you should just go at times the route in which anybody would know.
Did it at the end of the first half. They had the ball under 2 minutes, and it was 3rd and 1, and they threw it 30 yards downfield instead of giving the ball to Taylor and getting the first down, moved the chains. Chiefs got the ball back, kicked the field goal right before half. There's 3 points again that you never got in overtime if you didn't give them up. It's just the game to me is like it starts and it ends. And at the end of the game, you want to have the most points. And at some time during the game, you need to accumulate every point you can get.
Not pass it up. Tracy, Tracy, I got to run here, but thank you very much. That has been a point I think that Mike in Brooklyn has made a number of times about, hey, sometimes it's okay to take the points. Back to that in a second. Back to your calls in a second. Evan Sherrill of Cluster Truck. He is in studio with that microphone right in front of his grill. How you doing, brothers?
I'm doing all right. How about yourself?
I'm trying to look what you got over there. You got a golf outing going on?
Yes. It's
nice.
Shell Strong golf outing. It's for my wife's Aunt Shell. They raise money for bile duct cancer research every year.
Yeah, well done on that. You're rocking the Carhartt because you know it's wet and uncomfortable outside.
It seems like every time I'm visiting you guys, it's rainy outside.
Well, it is the month of November, and this is the look of November: gray, wet, cold, and crappy. Normally,
gray, wet.
Hey, listen, Thanksgiving and a food spread can't save November from the ultimate suck, and it is. It sucks. I hate December and January and February too. They all suck. If not for basketball and playoff football, then we're all screwed and hosed. It sucks.
Playoff football,
4 months of suck.
You got my birthday, my wife's birthday, and my anniversary all mixed into those months, so I can't say that.
Well,
but
my
the
kids'
weather's not the
birthdays are in
greatest.
January. They still suck. Christmas, everything all sucks. Thanksgiving sucks. So it's just ugly. We got to get back to the summertime when everything's fun as hell.
Summertime is good. Yeah,
free
you
and easy.
can't complain about
I'm kind of like the Colts offense. I work well with free and easy, but when things get tough, things get a little haywire, things get dicey weather-wise, I wilt. I'm not there. Hey, what'd you bring us today, brother?
We got salmon and roasted veggies, of course, fresh off the grill. And then for James, I just went back to the...
Is that fresh salmon out of the sea?
Is
it right out of the sea?
I can't...
Out of the brook?
I can't speak to where we get it from, truthfully. But I'll find that out.
One of these days, find out where you get it from. Yes, James, you're going to say something over there about food?
I'm just waiting to hear what I got on
what did James
dinner
get?
tonight.
I'm sorry.
I went back to Old Faithful, Nashville hot strips, tater tots.
There we go.
My dad and brother both heard me bring those to you, and they made me get those for them after that. So
they're really good.
Yeah, they both approve as well. So can't complain.
I drove by your location in Fishers the other day. Is that where it is?
We have one in
where was it?
Castleton, one in Broad Ripple, and then downtown Indy.
No, it wasn't in Fishers. Where the hell was I then? I drove past it. I just don't remember where I was.
We used to have one up in Fishers. No longer.
Oh, that's what it was. Is it still up
there?
No
signage or anything
no signage
anymore. No,
well, there was signage on this, so this had to be active.
Okay.
Where the hell was I then?
I have no idea. Maybe Broad Ripple. Maybe
that's
we have
concerning
one right up
for me. I don't know where I was.
We have one right up on 62nd and Evanston. Nice mural, nice signage.
Oh, the Cluster Truck. Hey, Cluster Truck. How about ordering now and just there's Thanksgiving right there.
That's a good call.
What do you got for Thanksgiving for Cluster Truck, Evan?
That's a good call. Like you can even use the Tupperware. It's nice, dishwasher quality, microwave safe. Send your family home with the Cluster Truck Tupperware full of leftovers from Thanksgiving. Nobody wants to cook today, tomorrow on Blackout Wednesday, if you will. So
Blackout Wednesday.
Order Cluster Truck. It just makes sense. You're going to be cooking all day Thursday. You might as well take the layup while you can.
Let me tell you what, our good friend Nathaniel Finch, who's an excellent producer around here, is constantly rocking the dishware of Cluster Truck.
Really?
He keeps that and reuses it, man. He does.
Good. It's good quality.
It's better than fine china right there.
My colleague John really prides himself on that. That's one thing that he's sought out. Good quality Tupperware that you can keep afterwards. So
fine china. Clustertruck.com. Tell them all about it.
Clustertruck.com or download the app, Cluster Truck app, and get $5 off with code FAN or code CTFAN at checkout.
You're awesome. Have a great Thanksgiving. Thank you for the cluster truck food. The salmon is going to hit the spot coming up later on tonight. Thank you, Evan.
Thank you, guys. Have a good Thanksgiving.
That is Evan Sherrill of Cluster Truck. ClusterTruck.com. Make it easy for you tonight. Make it easy for you tomorrow. And tell him I sent you. ClusterTruck.com. Quick break. We'll come back. We've got Seth Payne coming up at the 5 o'clock hour. Thanks again, Evan. Appreciate that. Stream the app, HD Radio, AAA Membership Lounge via YouTube Live, 93.5, 107.5 The Fan.
The Ride with JMV.
Give me my theme music!
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Your timing is impeccable there, James. You got to get better at that. You couldn't DJ on B105.7 6 until midnight on Saturday nights. Got to hit the post better than that, brother.
You said you wanted it to start when they said Stacy's mom.
Yeah, but you started half-ass after it. I'm a post-hitter professional, so I know. You have to bow to the presence of the post-hitter right here. He knows. Thank you for joining us. Seth Payne's going to join us. He knows about the Texans a little bit more than just the 6-5 and what we saw with the 8 sacks against Josh Allen and Buffalo. You know, more and the expectation of the return of Stroud, all that and then some. Seth Payne, former defensive lineman, Believe Podcasting Network, 5 o'clock hour. Sit tight for that. All right, 239-1070. I got time for you. We'll get to Larry in just a second, but I did want to read this. JMV, text line message, by the way, 317-239-1070. I feel like if we would have had a shootout back and forth with the Chiefs and lost by 3, it would have been like, oh, well, it's the Chiefs at home, but since we blew the lead, it's creating a lot of overreacting. If we lose at home to the Texans this weekend, then I believe it's time to hit the panic button, but not just yet. As I mentioned, too, this is the definition of what the Colts did on Sunday. This phrase describes a situation where a task has been mishandled, leading to negative consequences. Now, this particular phrase is often employed in informal context, sometimes humorously, to convey the idea of messing something up badly. For example, you might say he really, by forgetting to submit the report on time. So the Colts up 11 going to the 4th. What phrase am I searching for right here? What did the Colts do? I'm going to let you answer that in a second. I'll come back with what the Colts did. I like this game. This is a fun game right here. I just invented that in my head, too. We'll see on the text line at 317-239-1070 if you have an answer to the phrase that I'm thinking of right here that the Colts performed in the fourth quarter and in overtime on Sunday. And while we all may be overreacting, I think they've given us, again, Pittsburgh, overtime win in Berlin, loss on Sunday, reason to do a little bit more than just kind of stargazing and wondering here. Search for that phrase. 239-1070. Larry's going to jump on here. Meantime, hello, Larry. How are you?
Doing well. How about yourself?
Great, Larry. Go ahead.
So, Colts run game versus Kansas City. Seemed like we spent a lot of time trying to run around the edge as opposed to November, December football where you just punch them in the mouth.
Yeah, I didn't think the Colts offensive line, and again, there's also reason to say, well, wait a minute, you were kind of running into a wall with Jonathan Taylor. It's not like that they were really running up yardage there. I think what, Larry, we were talking about is when they go, whatever it was, 9 straight pass plays in the fourth, and not really trying to utilize the clock at all in 4 consecutive 3-and-outs. I think that's what we're talking about, too. Listen, that offensive line really didn't have it, and that's probably the major focus, and at times it has been, but that's probably more the major focus we're not really getting to now.
Yeah, I agree with that. Kansas City did something, though. They put 3 guys in the backfield and ran sets out of that and had a successful run game against us. Well, why couldn't we put, 2 tight ends back there? Is there something about the tight end position that doesn't really bode well for them to be in the backfield? But, I mean, Jonathan Taylor running behind Mo Alley Cox and our new rookie. I just
Yeah,
like that button.
and
You win.
hey, Larry, and thank you for the call too, Larry. Have a great Thanksgiving. In part, the right side of the offensive line has been a little bit on the struggle bus here too. All right, here are the answers, the guesses to the phrase I was looking for. Foobar would not be it. Blanking the bed would not be it. Scotty F says choke job. That would not be it. Crap the bed would not be it. Different form of what has already been said, and that would not be it. Blank down their legs and crap the bed would not be it. Already do choke job. That's not it. We do have a winner here. 2 winners. I don't think you win anything, but I'm going to have to start doing this because this was fun. What the Colts did, James, on Sunday in the fourth quarter and into overtime, where it's a situation that was mishandled. The task was mishandled that led to negative consequences was, quote, screwing the pooch. Screwing the pooch. That is well done out of you guys right there. Screwing the pooch. Cause you're up 11. I mean, really, when you think about it, it's not like all of a sudden Kansas, they had the ball all stinking day long, but they were not having visions of recent greatness with their own offense. I mean, the Colts would just go, okay, the Colts would just give it back quicker. So, I mean, really, you're up 11. You need one stinking drive, one drive, one scoring opportunity, right? You have 4 consecutive series of 3 and out. You begged to get beat. And while I completely understand being 8-3 and, everybody being worried about overreaction, I'd be more worried about this. I'd be more worried about not reacting enough. I'd be more worried about suggesting because you saw those first 3 quarters that everything's going to be okay. More concerned about that. I think it's okay to have this particular reaction or response to that result in the fashion in which it happened. And I think going all the way back to the original text that we got at 317-239-1070, it probably would be different. If it were a back-and-forth shootout and, we saw vintage Mahomes, vintage Chiefs offense. But you really didn't see that. I mean, the Chiefs, I use this term all the time, cobbled together. They cobbled together something with a great deal of help and clock mismanagement from the Colts. They had to cobble something together. So, yeah, that's why we look at this differently. And a lot of what they did was predicated on, that change of pace defensively. And then all of a sudden, when you sped up the Colts and put them in situations, quick decision-making the Colts were lucky. I mean, you mentioned, I think it was Larry or as Tracy or somebody that brought up throwing into triple coverage. I mean, Daniel Jones should have been picked, but 2 defensive players ran into one another. It was like the Three Stooges. The Three Stooges of interceptions. Or potential interceptions in this case. But no, there's enough evidence there for your concern. This is not just, hey, we're going to create something here because we got to freak everybody out. No, there is substantial evidence as to why you're going to prioritize Sunday and then a week from Sunday versus Jacksonville anyway, right? But there's significant reason why you should look at this a lot differently. Because teams, and I'm sure this is not the case, but this is how it seems. Teams have found out. Offensively for the Colts. The Jim Blossoms have, and we'll have to play this on the back end, found out about you as part of their catalog and their hits collection. It seems like that defenses, whether it was in the style of the Steelers or in moments in Berlin with the Falcons or what you witnessed in the fourth quarter with Steve Spagnuolo, one of the better guys to ever do it. Seems like they found out about you. So there's reason to talk it up. Seth Payne joins us, the former Texans defensive lineman, the Believe Podcasting Network, top of the hour. Don't go anywhere. 93.5, 107.5 The Fan.
JMV.
Excuse me, Robo. Any special message for all the kids watching at home?
Stay out of trouble. 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
There you go, Gin Blossoms. Have other teams found out about you, and you being the Colts. I got bullseye passes to give away for Sunday. Shout out to Cal Canet, who puts together the absolute best parties of all time. You got that before the Texans-Colts game on Sunday, Big Ten championship game. Did you know that DJ Skids and I are going to treat that before the Big Ten championship game like a JMV Takeover Live? I'm going to yip it up. He's going to play songs, and I'll probably throw back some beverages. Although I don't do that during the JMV Takeover because there's way too much going on. But yet another reason why you'll want to join for that, there's no doubt. But I will tell you this, evidently, and I haven't looked ahead to our AccuWeather forecast, evidently rain, sleet, and snow is in the forecast for Sunday. So I'm assuming the roof and window will be closed. So, rain, sleet, and snow. And if you make fun of me because all I do in the wintertime is wear boots, I can't have cold feet. I can't have cold toes. Specific reason, I have a wide variety of boots. My boot collection, I don't have cowboy boots, but I have a lot of boots. Good reason. Yes.
You just say the word bullseye and people just start calling in like crazy. Oh, yeah.
So this is going to be really crankish of me right here.
Oh, God.
239-1070. Yeah. Bullseye passes for Sunday because whoever called and thought the bullseye passes were being handed out now has inspired me to give them away after he hung up. I'm sorry, man. If that guy calls back, I'll help the brother out there.
Oh, there were like 3 or 4 people, so it's all good.
That is such crankish behavior by me. Number 9 at 239-1070. You're going to go to bullseye. Coming up on Sunday. Ooh, awesome. So, yeah, my evidently, I don't know where Blake, I don't know how he got it either. So I've told you this before. For some reason, the Canadian beer, I don't know why this is. So Blake was up in Michigan and picked up, so I don't know if maybe it was in Canada. He's gone to Canada a lot. I don't know why. Just ask me like off the air and I'll explain it to you. But I just saw it coming back with Labatt's Blue Light, or I should say Labatt Blue Light, the Detroit Red Wings collection. What the hell does that look like? And here's something else. He is now a big-time NHL fan, and he loves the Montreal Canadiens. So he loves the Habs. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to let him live with Bob Kravitz for a while. The Habs. So, yeah, we've got to track down some tickets. I know that Montreal plays St. Louis on January the 3rd, which is a Saturday, and I'm assuming I'll probably be doing the JMV Takeover. I'm not quite sure. I guess on that Saturday, unless I skip it because we're doing New Year's Eve on Wednesday. But anyway, they play in St. Louis, but there is a Colts game on that Sunday afterwards. The Habs. NHL. Every time I see him now, he's like watching NHL and stuff on his phone. Weird, huh? So, Labatt's Blue Light, the Detroit Red Wing collection. What's that can look like over there, James? Not that they advertised or anything. I think that's like $1.15 caloric intake per bottle, which is not on my list. Does it look like a cool can? Oh, hell, that looks like a cool can right there.
Yeah, that's pretty cool looking.
Yeah. What is that, $1.15 calories in that can right there?
That sounds right.
If we can have that. A little too much for me. True story. Hey, JMV, feeling a lot better about the Dogs after the weekend. Hey, and you should too. South Carolina and Virginia. That's a conversation starter right there when you get further in the season, man. It really is, Jarrett. We've got to get BizJack on this show at some point, too. Reach out to Butler and see if Finley could come on the show sometime. Shooter to shooter. But, no, you're right. And, again, it's nothing that Jarrett's going to jump off the page. But, I mean, you get some quality winnage right there. Completely agree. When Schuler spreadability, that is quality snackage. Elite level available for you. You'll find it at Neiman's Harvest Market in Carmel, Meyer location, state of Indiana, and Gordon's Food Service as well. Original sharp cheddar bacon and cheddar and jalapeno pepper, which is, by the way, a crowd favorite. The spreadability, the elite level snacking of Win Schuler's. Your calls, more bullseye passes coming up, too. I won't do that to you again. I feel bad for whomever called. That's some straight jackassery right there out of me. And Seth Payne, former Texan, going to join us top of the hour. Don't go anywhere. It's 93.5, 107.5 The Fan.
With JMV.
I don't know what the hell's in there, but it's weird and pissed off, whatever it is.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
5 o'clock hour shout out our good friend in Southern California, Jim McCann, who is out for a walk and listening. I think Jim is out of the hospital. Our thoughts have been with Jim McCann on his particular journey. He is a friend of this show, a friend of the JMV Takeover every Saturday night, except for this now Christmas music hiatus on B105.7. And it is good to see Jim up and around. It is also awesome to see sunshine and blue skies where he is walking around right now in Southern California. Tomorrow we're going to be at Brothers in Broad Ripple. It is the annual event. I know it's kind of high school hookup, but they like to call it Blackout Wednesday, the night before Thanksgiving. But we are doing a Bud Light Blue Friday on Wednesday. Texans Colts tickets to give away. Brothers in Broad Ripple tomorrow. I want to make sure everybody is with me and you're present and accounted for with me tomorrow afternoon beginning at 3. Brothers in Broad Ripple, our friends from Zinc, Bud Light Blue Wednesday with 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan. Meantime, on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline right now, he's a part of the Believe Network podcast. Of course, you can also remember him as a part of the Texans of the past as well, along that defensive line. Seth Payne joins us now. Hey, Seth, thank you for the time. How are you?
I'm good. I hope Jim McCann's not in the concussion protocol because apparently you never emerged from that. That's been my experience with it over these last couple of weeks.
Yeah, he is out walking around right now. How about this? C.J. Stroud, will concussion protocol be proven that C.J. Stroud is up for return this weekend here in Indy?
Yeah, I think all the signs and indicators look like if the Bills game had been on a Sunday, I think there's a really good chance that both C.J. Stroud and then Jalen Petrie on the opposite side of the ball, who's a very critical part of that defense. I think there's a real good chance both of those guys would have played, but they just got caught in that time crunch where there really wasn't enough time to make it all the way through the protocol. So the expectations are right now that C.J. Stroud's going to play. D'Amico Ryans yesterday just said they're both still in the protocol. But you guys know how that goes. They got to go through a practice or two and get evaluated for symptoms. So I think they're just taking their time with that, and there's no need to push the issue right now.
The defense, Seth, certainly against Buffalo was an absolute monster. Are we watching a team, even without its starting quarterback right now, begin this uphill climb? Are they on the upswing as they come to Indy on Sunday?
I think defensively they've been playing well all year long. And they got to do it on a primetime game. They also, they got an offensive coordinator fired today because the Bills, for whatever reason, decided to just stick with the 5-man pass protection versus Danielle Hunter and Will Anderson. And it's not something that the Texans really see a lot. Most teams are going to use tight ends and running backs to chip those guys as much as possible. They just left Josh Allen exposed, and that's what you get with that. So I think that the defense had a very good night on Thursday, but they've been playing well all year long. The big question all season long has been, what exactly is this offense? What are they capable of doing? Does C.J. Stroud actually like this offense? We're not 100% positive, but they've gone 3-0 with Davis Mills in there as the quarterback. And Davis Mills had some really good moments, but by and large, he looked like a very adequate backup quarterback who's playing opposite of a really good defense, and they managed to win those games. Obviously, the matchups favored the Texans versus the Bills in a lot of ways. I don't think the Texans have that same advantage, especially on the road versus the Colts, but just how C.J. Stroud looks post-concussion is going to be a huge factor in all of this.
It's Seth Payne again, Believe Podcasting Network. The former Texan defensive lineman's kind enough to join us on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. So you come at this a couple of different ways. You follow the Texans. You're a former Texan and a former defensive player And we kind of wanted this around here from the outside looking in, and you factor in Pittsburgh, and I realize the Colts never win there, but you factor in Pittsburgh, what they did defensively, and even Atlanta to a degree in Berlin, and then certainly Steve Spagnuolo in the fourth quarter of the Chiefs and what they were able to accomplish against this Colts offense compared to what wasn't done in the first three quarters. Has there something that's been found out about this Colts offense that was just so spectacular for most of the first 2 months of the season?
Well, I think, for one, I don't want to overly simplify it, and I'm curious to know if you guys feel this way or not. But, Jonathan Taylor is, to me, the engine of that offense, and the threat that Jonathan Taylor provides and how effective he makes the play action has really been what's driven a lot of it. And that as some tendencies have started to build up over the course of the first half of the season, as people start to see exactly how Shane Steichen is managing to get the most out of Daniel Jones, that doesn't carry Daniel Jones as far. And that's the really, I came into this season, I was telling everybody in Houston, listen, don't underestimate what Shane Steichen can do with Daniel Jones. I think he's a much better offensive coordinator in mind than Brian Daboll is, in my opinion. And Daniel Jones has a whole lot of weapons around him. So I don't know if it's fair to say that they cracked the code necessarily, but those are two defenses that have the potential to really get after the quarterback, to make the quarterback uncomfortable. And if you can get to him before you expose some of the weaknesses by playing aggressively, then that's probably the recipe for success.
Seth Payne is with us, so I want to go back 3 weeks ago to Pittsburgh, and you saw Highsmith and Watt, which they historically have done at a very high level. I mean, and chase around Jones and get after this Colts offense, and they turned it over 6 times. All of that lack of ball security in mind. And to me, there are some similarities to what we're going to see with Anderson and Hunter to that particular matchup coming up on Sunday. And you talk about this defense being good all season long. Is that where this high-level defense starts? Is that where it's been most effective, is coming off the edge and doing what they did against Josh Allen and the Bills?
I think it's a little bit more than that. They've been doing a really good job just playing complementary football on the defense as a whole. They've got some studs in the secondary. And, with Kamari Lassiter and Derek Stingley on the outside at cornerback, and then with Jalen Petrie, who's kind of an X factor. Sometimes, he's a nickel linebacker more than he's a slot corner, but he plays all over the place. He can make plays behind the line of scrimmage. They can kind of use him as a grenade to throw into situations. So they create havoc all over the place, but they have good solid coverage on the back end. So you get that complementary effect of, hey, that Bills game, the pressure didn't come really fast. It's not like it was unblocked blitzing linebackers. It wasn't like it was guys coming free or winning immediately on the edge. Most of the times the guys were getting sacks in that game, it was on a second or third move. So it took the coverage downfield to give those guys time for that to happen. But they were able to rush a 4-man pass rush much of the night. So Danielle Hunter and Will Anderson are both good. I mean, Danielle is 3rd in the league in sacks right now. Will Anderson is 4th. But they do a good job of rushing with discipline. You don't see a lot of, you won't see Danielle Hunter or Will Anderson all that often run past the quarterback just trying to take a swipe at it. They really try to constrict the pocket. So when you get a mobile quarterback like Josh Allen, he doesn't have a lot of places to run. He doesn't have the easy lane right up the middle. So it's no secret. DeMeco Ryans is a really good defensive coordinator. And I think what you're seeing is in this 3rd year where guys have time in the system and they've added a boatload of talent through the draft and through free agency with Danielle Hunter. Everything's just starting to really click for those guys.
So Seth Payne, former Texan, Believe Podcasting Network, covers the Texans. He's on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. So how do you think they're going to size up? What is, you think, the tack they take defensively? Aggressive, I'm assuming you start right there against this Colts offense because, 6-5, we're prioritizing this game against the Texans, the first of 2 this season, and really back-to-back with Houston and Jacksonville coming up for the Colts. even with a team that's 8-3, but at 6-5, this is of the highest priority of the Texans. How defensively do they attack the Colts on their home field?
Well, I think they probably focus mostly on Jonathan Taylor, and they'll probably load the box more than they typically do. And then I don't want to say just see how it goes, but they'll have their defensive backs play somewhat conservatively and still play some off coverage while still loading the line of scrimmage. And just, if you get Daniel Jones at a 2nd and long, 3rd and long, it doesn't go as well for them. So winning that first down, getting stuffs and tackles for a loss or pass breakups on first down on the passes, that's when they really get in their comfort zone. And that's when they can just rush forward and see how that goes. I think what I would worry about is if you go back and watch the Titans game from a couple weeks ago, Cam Ward missed a lot of throws that a veteran or a better quarterback would make. And the Texans had 2 injuries in the secondary at the time. And the starting safety, MJ Stewart's out for the year, so that's still a backup who's in there now starting. Jalen Petrie, if he's back, they're going to be in a little bit better shape. But Cam Ward just couldn't take advantage of some of the shots and opportunities they had downfield. I think those opportunities are likely going to be there, and that's really because the Texans will play off. They'll concede some of the underneath stuff, and they'll dare you to, just march your way down the field. They don't give up. They used to have a problem giving up big plays. That hasn't nearly been as big of an issue anymore. But it's usually if they weren't performing as well as they were, people would be derisively calling them a bend but don't break defense. And that's never a bad term unless your team's doing it badly. And usually that's because it's actually bend, and then break. The Texans do a good job of just playing conservatively, appropriately blitzing here and there, but they're not going to sell out unless they really feel they need to.
Seth Payne is with us. We know Nico Collins here certainly as being an absolute game wrecker in the past against the Colts. Regardless of the quarterback situation and certainly looking at this Colts defense, is that capability of his high level of production still going to be there on Sunday as what we have in most recent memory?
That's been one of the really interesting things is that Davis Mills seemed to find Nico Collins a lot more effectively than C.J. Stroud did. And it's tough because right before C.J. got his concussion, it did look like things were starting to click for the offense. The week before, C.J. had targeted against the 49ers, C.J. had targeted Nico Collins, I think the 2nd highest number of times he had all season long. He targeted him 3 times in the 2 series that he played against the Broncos. But then Davis continued that trend, and they started to get Nico a lot more involved. That was also as Jaden Higgins, the rookie wide receiver, was starting to come into his own, and Davis Mills was finding Jaden Higgins a lot. So it really is a lot of teams have really, given safety help with Nico Collins. And at the same time, it didn't feel like CJ really trusted Jaden Higgins. Christian Kirk was still working his way into the mix, or at various times he was injured, as he tends to be. Jalen Noel, the rookie, I don't think was quite assimilated into the offense. All of that was just starting to click when CJ got injured. So I do think it depends on really how do they view Sauce Gardner. Is Sauce Gardner going to follow Nico Collins around without safety help? And does that end up becoming, one of the big one-on-one battles of the game? Or do they shade towards D'Amico, or do they give safety help on Nico? Then it's a matter of whether CJ can really find all those other weapons. But yeah, Nico these last couple of weeks has looked a lot more like the peak Nico Collins, where he's been kind of limited in the first half of the season.
Now, granted, it doesn't look like it, but is there any capability of all to run the football with the Texans?
Okay. This is where DeForest Buckner comes in, or the lack thereof.
Sure.
Look, this has been very consistent. The Texans' offensive line, they've improved. They're not the absolute train wreck that they were last year. I would say over the course of the last 4 or 5 weeks, they've at least played like an average offensive line, but not, and they've run the ball better, but not down in the red zone, not when they really need to be able to run the ball. They've really struggled to do that. So and one of the biggest factors has simply been, it's not rocket science. When they face an inferior defense or when they face inferior defensive tackles, they can run the ball pretty well. But then they go up against a team like the Titans a couple weeks ago. And look, the Titans Titans are not a great defense whatsoever. The Texans really struggled to run the ball consistently against them because Tavondre Sweat and Jeffrey Simmons were both healthy and in the middle, and they just couldn't get that movement. Then you add Woody Marks, who's done some really nice things as a rookie, but him and Chubb, they leave some yardage on the table. They don't necessarily always see things as well as, say, a Joe Mixon would. So that's still a work in progress, and they've improved. DeForest Buckner would certainly help, but Grover Stewart's been a literally gigantic pain in the butt for this team for a long time. So I'm not confident that they're going to run the ball at will versus that Colts defense.
Good spot for them coming off this win over Buffalo, and seemingly now at 6-5, their time to make any run is right now. Regardless, and we don't know about Stroud, but the expectation is, okay, he can get back. Is this a good spot for them? You feeling a lot better about this team right now compared to maybe how you felt a month or so ago?
Yeah, I do. The other thing that's kind of developed over the last few weeks is Dalton Schultz has started to get a lot more involved from the tight end position. It really, at this point, does all hinge on what C.J. Stroud looks like when he comes back. And, one term that C.J. will describe this offense as death by 1,000 cuts because they see a lot of cover two, shell coverages, things just designed to take away the deep ball. And they're doing that same thing. Defenses are doing that same thing they did to Pat Mahomes back in the day or any talented young quarterback. They're going to wait and see, hey, can you actually carve us up on 12-play series and 14-play series and kill us that way? And are you patient enough to do it? And the frustrating thing has been that CJ's been very competent doing that at times. They've moved the ball between the 20s really well. It's when they get down into the red zone, that inability to run the ball has made it really tough for teams don't respect the play action. They don't feel the need. They're not, the linebackers aren't overly eager to be just filling those gaps or holes. They're not walking an eighth guy up into the box. They can function real well until things get compressed down in the red zone. And that ends up reflecting on CJ. But CJ's been doing a lot of things really well. It's just that cherry on top, the finishing touch, that minor, and in advanced analytics, I think they call it scoring touchdowns. I don't want to get all nerdy on you here, but scoring touchdowns is a big deal in the NFL these days.
That's what I hear. Yeah. And so in case of the Colts, too, in the fourth quarter, so would be getting first downs and maybe extending a series past 3 downs 4 consecutive times. It's kind of interesting in closing here, Seth, with you. You look at this Colts offense, and is this a team that you think is sustainable? Because the question has kind of surfaced in the last 3 games, whether or not they were a product of the schedule early on, and now things are getting a little bit tougher. Will they come back down to earth a little bit? What do you make of this Colts team you see moving forward starting Sunday against the Texans?
Well, I guess, before I answer that question, how long do you guys suspect that Daniel Jones has been dealing with this fibula?
It's a good question, right? I mean, you don't find anything out in the bye week, which obviously nobody knew anything, and then they started out talking, Seth, full disclosure, last week, I think it was on Thursday, we found out it was a calf, and then on Friday it came back to be a fibula. And I don't know how much you saw of the game on Sunday.
I knew I had seen the injury report, and then I actually jumped in to watch the game right when he converted that 3rd and 1 where he's running to his right.
Yeah.
And
where he ran out of bounds, and he looked like he walked out of bounds, Yeah,
and it looked like, and then when he scrambled, the next time he ran, I think he scrambled up the middle. And Jim Nantz was nice enough to do that thing where he reminds us that a white guy can run. He says he can run.
He can.
Usually he runs faster than that. And he looked like he was kind of hobbling around when he did that. So I mean, that's the big question is how much is that affecting him? And and I think obviously it was affecting him in that game. And some of those errant throws might be related to that. Look, lots of really good offenses go on 3 or 4 game lulls. You go back to when the Rams won the Super Bowl a few years back, Matt Stafford looked not all that great in the last third of the season. So I tend to look at, okay, what is an offense capable of? And the Colts have already shown some pretty impressive things. So I'm not sleeping on them one bit.
You ever see on the injury report from one day to the next go from calf to fibula? I don't think I've ever seen that.
Yeah, and I guess it's technically accurate. The fibula is in the calf region, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had AI help us out on this with the. I went from saying the fibula is no big deal to all of a sudden realizing it. Oh, it actually can be a big deal for ankle stability and everything. So
Seth, we live in a world right now where there's big time trouble with a strained calf, and this comes from our living in a basketball area, and that's where it started with Tyrese Halliburton, and it went from the calf strain to obviously the Achilles situation that he's in, missing the season. So, and around here, we're always a bit apprehensive when we hear quarterback injury news too, because I think with good reason, a little bit scarred from the past here.
Yeah, no kidding.
But fibula was weird. That was a weird one.
I think they should totally rest him this weekend and see what Riley Leonard has in him. Yeah. It would be my advice.
Great plan. That's a great plan you got there, Seth. Hey, how can people find your podcast on the Believe Podcasting Network and any place else where we can see or watch your content or listen to your content?
If you just search Believe in Texans, it's spelled BLEAV. I also have my YouTube channel, The Seth Payne Show. And then if you guys want to hate listen to Sports Radio 610 in Houston, just Google that and text in all kinds of hate to us. My morning show is from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m.
Now, do you do that alone, or you're somebody with you?
I've got Sean Pendergast is my host. He's the actual radio professional.
Is that the dude that used to be a part of the Rome Show way back in the day?
Yeah, he was, and actually I call him a radio professional. Neither of us are professionals. He was a 5-time Smack-Off winner.
Yes.
Sean the Cablinasian.
That's exactly who that is right there. I thought that's who that was. For some reason, I thought maybe he was done in radio in Houston, but he kind of got that nod from being the Smack-Off champion on the Rome Show in the day, did he not?
Yeah. He was. It's funny. He was in corporate America. Had a really good job. And then basically his company got acquired, and he was out of a job, and just said, screw it, I'm going to go try radio. And he took like a 90% pay cut to go work at a small station down here in Houston, and just with 3 kids, mind you, and ended up just kind of worked his way up the ranks. And he's probably the most beloved radio host in Houston.
That's outstanding. Now, did he ever have any communication other than the smack off with Rome, and did anything up? Because, I mean, I didn't know if Rome, propped it up because he created a sports talk show host off of the smack off. Anything ever happened after that?
No, I don't think he didn't try to start a school for radio hosts or anything like that.
That is awesome. And he's also a big wrestling dude too, right? Is that true?
Oh, yeah. He's a big kid. He's a big 55-year-old child, which is fun. We have a good time.
That is well done. Hey, Seth, outstanding work from you, man. Really enjoyed it. We'll catch back up when you get that return venture down to Houston, okay?
All right, man. Yeah, thanks. I'm stuck in this precarious position of wanting to brag about how I warned everybody about Daniel Jones in the preseason, but now also kind of just wanting it to all fall apart. I'm not a journalist. I'm in.
But you want to leave that in October is what you're saying. You say, okay, I called this up until October, and maybe not so much anymore.
Yeah, or maybe just for a couple games against the Texans in the remainder of the season.
Seth, well done, man. I appreciate that. We'll do it again soon.
All right, thanks, guys.
Seth Payne, Believe Podcasting Network. Sean DeCavlinasian. Anybody remember? And I go back to when I worked at the other station, I had to run the board for a number of years for the Rome Show. And I remember a lot of those early to mid-2000s smack-offs. And he was a multi-champ. And then he put together that and ended up getting a job in Houston and has been there for a while. Anybody else remember that as I just did? It's weird how that recollection just kind of falls in your lap, but I thought, well, wait a minute, that's the Rome Show guy. Now, you may also know that Kyle Brandt, the NFL Network, who was just 2 weeks ago here with Daniel Jones with a sit-down, Kyle Brandt was the former producer of the Rome Show, and he took a flyer on that position after a number of years doing what? James, you remember?
This is all ancient history to me.
I'll answer that question coming up on the other side. Your calls to close out the show, 317-239-1070. That is the text line, 317-239-1070. That was really good with Seth right there. Podcast that up, too, 1075thefan.com. Weird Al tickets and maybe some bullseye before we close, 93.5, 1075 The Fan.
He's not the Messiah. He's a very naughty boy. Now go away.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Had me all sped up right there, didn't it? Weird Al Yankovic tickets. Who wants to go? We doing this on the phone? How are we doing this?
I didn't even think about that because
I guess we're doing this on the phone right now. Yeah.
Well, I guess everyone's calling in for Bullseye.
239-1070. Go ahead and call in. You guys are just smart. Weird Al tickets. That's coming up next summer. Ruoff Music Center. Weird Al. Fantastic event. You as well can be a part of it. Caller 9 at 239-1070. Good to go. I'll come up with the Kyle Brandt info in just a second. By the way, Seth Payne was really good. Hope you enjoyed that. I did. Podcast 1075thefan.com. Hey, tomorrow, Brothers in Broad Ripple, Bud Light Blue Wednesday. Who's going? All of you. James is taking care of the phones right now, so I'll just go ahead and tell you. Jim McCann sent this, and a lot of you too. Drew Storen, the former Major League Baseball pitcher and now youth baseball coach extraordinaire. And I'm going to separate that from incredible whiskey maker too. The separation's there. Says producing. And yes, Kyle Brandt was a producer for the Jim Rome Show. We were talking about that with Seth because his partner was a former Smack Off winner. The Smack Off of the Jim Rome Show is when you come on and you talk a bunch of junk. It's an annual event. I haven't heard it in like years, but I remember back in the day when I was at NDE, that was the noon show. And I heard a lot of those. And Sean DeCavallanasian was a multi-winner, and he's also now the co-host on that radio show with Seth down in Houston. But anyway, we got kind of off on that, and we were talking about Kyle Brandt, who was in town to interview Daniel Jones of the NFL Network a couple of weeks ago. He was from Real World Chicago back in the day, but also was a part of this show, James. Na 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 na. Where's McDonald Carey? Oh, it's just the song itself. There's no McDonald Carey. That's okay though. Oh, this is a long version right here. Days of Our Lives. And from anybody that's a member of Generation X, if you ever watch the show, you immediately think about how quickly would I be able to see Hope and her cleavage, because that's all we had to go by back then. I had Playboys in the barn loft. We know that to be true. But if you're looking for a little cleave, as we were, 14 and 15 years of age, Days of Our Lives, and Hope provided that. But Kyle Brandt played the role of Philip Kyriakis on Days of Our Lives. Philip Kyriakis was the son of Victor Kyriakis, who in real life is no longer with us. That's John Aniston played Victor Kyriakis. John Aniston, James, is the late father of Jennifer Aniston. The Friends. You guys need to know anything else? Seriously, if you guys ever need me in pop culture trivia, I'll just come alongside. I'm here with you.
You'd make a killing as a professional Trivial Pursuit player.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, there's a lot of stuff on that board that I'm not good at.
Specifically the pop culture
like
version
school
of it.
Stuff. Yeah. Stuff like that I'm not good at. Art, literature, science. You get past igneous, metamorphic, and sedimentary rock, then I'm screwed in science. But I can tell you all about weird science. Well done. Thank you, Jim McCann, for that. Kyle Brandt, Days of Our Lives. Philip Kyriakis. Ooh, I was a big fan of Kate back in the day. You guys want to go over the crushes I had on Days of Our Lives? Because there were many. More than a handful. That is very true. Now, I got your back on that, Christian Webb. I always do, my brother. Now, seriously, he was really good. We'll do Seth Payne again before the second time around with these two teams. Promise you that. Graham from Avon writes this, JMV. I guess the main point of my frustration after that loss on Sunday was having some time to think about it. The stark difference in Shane's aggressiveness that has gotten us to this point. There were several occasions where I do believe we could have put the nail in the proverbial coffin, specifically on the final drive before the overtime, where we punted. Maybe put them away with another first down. I'd have rather taken that chance and given them the ball back. I mean, really, when you think about it too, Graham, thank you very much, Graham and Avon right there. When you think about it on Sunday, if you just trim the clock a little bit, I mean, 4 consecutive 3-and-outs, very little clock usage, up 11. That was all about the problem. I think that's, for the most part, what everybody has a problem with. And this is one of the specific reasons why you might be a bit of a non-believer right now. Now, the guiding light was not better. Thank you very much. Days of Our Lives, and 4-channel guy here in the 80s. And when you're a evolving adolescent and you're looking for what I and others like me were looking for, Days of Our Lives kind of had that. Didn't have cable, didn't have the capabilities of HBO back in the day or any early stages of Skinamax. Shout out to the Brett reference, by the way, though. That's great. Yeah, can you imagine? Nick writes this. Can you imagine going around the Trivial Pursuit board and me, 19th century American literature? Yeah. I think I could go like the Portrait of Dorian Gray. I've told you this before. I didn't read that book, but I did a book report on it, which was saying something. I've read 2 books in my lifetime, both S.C. Hinton novels. I have read The Outsiders and seen the film, and I have read That Was Then, This Is Now, and seen that film too. True story. Otherwise, American literature, I don't have much for you. Sorry about that. I mean, that's just, I am not well-rounded. And I said this, once I got past those 3 book reports, I was pretty much done with books. That was it. JMV, I think Shane's philosophy of trying to stay in front of the chains, great in the beginning of the game, but when you're up like you are in Kansas City, you need to throw that theory out the window. Now, that has been something. I will say this, though. With that philosophy, that's something that has disappeared in the Pittsburgh game, that disappeared against Atlanta, but they still won, and was prevalent early on, but certainly disappeared late in the game on Sunday. They are better, and that's all a part of, I think, being at ease and in rhythm. It's when things get tight, when quicker decisions have to be made, when you truly need 2 things, when you need some pass pro or a couple of tough yards, or when you need a big-time stop. I mean, collectively, this team, we have seen them at times here recently struggle in that capacity. That's what, if you can find any level of consistency with either, that's what takes you above everybody else, and that's why you believe them to be like everybody else right now. Doesn't make you a bad team, doesn't mean you don't rep 8-3, but it's certainly a level of play that you have to find a sort of consistency with. Quick break, we'll come back. Final time at 239-1070, 317-239-1070. That is the text line tomorrow, Brothers and Broad Ripple. We're going to be there at 3 o'clock. I don't know who's going to be on the show yet, but it's going to be absolutely fantastic. I know you have your chance to win Texans Colts tickets, courtesy of our friends at Bud Light, the annual event, Bud Light Blue Friday on a Wednesday. And whether or not you dig the bucket game on a Friday, those questions and more shall be answered coming up tomorrow beginning at 3 with 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
The Ride with JMV.
What in the wide world of sports is going on here?
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Your weather forecast certainly should not at all keep you from joining us in Broad Ripple coming up tomorrow. But snow shower potential at some point on Wednesday. Low chance of quick, light accumulations with low visibilities. I wouldn't worry about that. Still join us and have a hell of a time. It's going to be okay. Thank you, Foreigner, for bringing us back in. Below freezing temperatures and high winds. We're talking snow flurries, isolated snow showers along and north of I-70. Things we don't know. Things they don't know. Things they rarely know in the world of weather. How far south snow flurries will extend, how intense snow will be, and whether any snow showers will lead to accumulations on the roadways. So this weather can smooch my rear. I hate it. Seriously, if we could just go ahead, if we could still have the rest of the football season, both, obviously, high school, collegiate, NFL, and the basketball season, I'd be okay to go ahead and skip all the way through to March. Because I think all of this stinks. I do. I know where I live, too. But I do not like it. Bummer. Some questions from you at 317-239-1070. JMV, what did you think about the Pacers last night? You had a team coming in, winners of 12 consecutive. I do like the fight even in the loss. As I explained a little bit earlier, there's nothing wrong with liking the fight with a loss. To me, that does kind of wear me out at some point in time. I view that really in the same fashion in which I view the whole, and these are terms when you're a loser that you hear, entertaining losses, and you start talking about draft capital and all that nerdery that coincides with you being a big loser. Now, there are reasons as to this, and this is not, choices that were made. It's not decisions that were made. They go for it, and your best player gets injured, and then for whatever reason, as I mentioned a little bit earlier, all the gods of sports decide to go, you know what, anybody that's any good on your basketball team, let's go ahead and pop something on them. Pop this and pop that. So you just have to deal with it. And while I have a great deal of admiration because that's how they're supposed to play, that's how I also view it. That's how they're supposed to play. That's what you would expect. No longer do I believe them to be, and haven't for a while now, any playoff contender or any salvaging of the season contender. But at the very least, the expectation is what you witnessed last night and how hard they went at it. JMV, another question for you, 317-239-1070 regarding IU Kansas State down in Bloomington later on tonight. By the way, that tip time's at 8 o'clock, 7 o'clock, your coverage. Don and Eric and John over on 93 WIBC. What does Kansas State bring to the table in this matchup? It seems like maybe IU's going to get a real test for the first time, because maybe Marquette wasn't on a neutral floor a couple of weeks ago. Kansas State does have a high-volume shooter and a high-volume scorer. That is P.J. Haggerty, the name that you can watch. 28 per for Haggerty, the transfer from Memphis. Smidge, I think, over 40% from distance. But I will say this. He is actively now above 55% from the floor. That is pretty impressive. High-volume shooter, high-volume scorer. So a little defensive effort is going to be necessary to answer your question for the Hoosiers coming up later on tonight. Again, 8 o'clock, your tip time down in Bloomington, 7 o'clock, your coverage. 93 WIBC. P.J. Haggerty. That is who you're watching for. JMV, I heard you mention this a little bit earlier. Another text question, 317-239-1070, regarding the Indiana High School Basketball Hall of Fame. So I hear Jay Edwards was in it. I thought he already was. I probably would have thought he was already in it too, but he is not. He is going in. Rick Fox is going in. Rick Fox, I believe, is in politics down in the Bahamas now, is he not? But they are both going in. Jay Edwards, one of my favorite players of all time. And I know while in Bloomington had some issues and got kicked off, kicked off the team, whatever, a number of times, but ultimately goes to the NBA. He was one of the, when he was on the floor, most enjoyable players I can remember watching collegiately and certainly at IU. And back-to-back-to-back championships for Marion. I would have thought that he would already have been in. However, he was not. Shout out to Jay Edwards. That whole group was just fantastic. I love Lyndon Jones, and Lyndon knows that. Derek Keys, the entire group. Just rolled. JMV, who turned Blake on to the NHL? I have no idea. He just rolled home once upon a time, and he was watching. Who was he watching? He was watching Edmonton and L.A. I thought, wait a minute, what's happening? He's apparently a big Habs fan. Now, I believe Montreal Canadiens, Habs is short for Habitats, which means those from in and around Montreal, Quebec. What does Habs mean?
It is short for Les Habitants, a French term for the original settlers of New France.
There you go, right there, man. Thank you. JMV, you ever think about having a pop culture podcast, buddy? That would be badass. I have thought about that before. Actually, Carl, producer of the Tony Katz Show, wants me. I'm doing an 80s music podcast, but I rarely get to it around here, which is unfortunate. And I know Carl probably wants to kick the crap out of me if he could. He can't, but if he could, he would. And I should get motivated on that. But yeah, I would struggle with today. And I've said this all along. If I were able to, much like the JMV takeover, if I were able to compartmentalize, trivia or conversations 70s, 80s, and 90s, then I'd be legit. But once we start getting a little bit into the 2000s, I lose a little bit of that. Getting better on it, but certainly today I can't keep up with anybody that's turning into an overnight star on YouTube or on TikTok. I can't and I won't do it. When Schuler Spreadability is going to give you the capabilities of elite-level snacking, and tonight you need it. Lots of basketball going on. Original sharp cheddar bacon and cheddar. Original, I should say, jalapeno pepper as well, which is a fan favorite. And you can find that when Schuler's. You can find it Neiman's Harvest Market, Carmel. Also, your favorite Gordon's Food Service location. You ever go to Gordon's too? And when you check out, you have to specify whether or not it's for business or pleasure. True. Because I go in there and get these big 5-pound things of cottage cheese. Because I think that's the cottage. When you have a really good cottage cheese, really good low-fat cottage cheese, I believe most of you, if you're a restaurant, bar, whatever, you get it from Gordon's Food Service. Mm. So when I come out and I got these 2 big 5-pound containers of cottage cheese, I have to specify whether this is for business or personal. I go, hey, personal. Okay, so you're the numbnuts. You're getting 10 pounds of cottage cheese to take home, huh? Personal? Yeah, okay.
I'd love to see the looks you get as you walk out of there with that much cottage cheese.
10 pound, 2 5-pound containers of cottage cheese. Low fat, 90-calorie cottage cheese. You can find Win Schuler's at Gordon's Food Service. Just go ahead and specify this is for personal use. Also, Meijer locations throughout the state of Indiana. Win Schuler's Spreadability. That is elite-level snacking. You guys have been outstanding today. Thank you very much for being a part of this show. Tomorrow, and no, I gave you that weather forecast. Don't sweat it. We're all going to be good. Let me tell you this. We need a Bud Light Blue Wednesday because we're all going to be with families on Thursday. Well, I'm going to be with my mom on Friday, so I'm going to have a buffer. But we need that. Before you guys all embark for your family time, maybe begrudgingly so, I think you need to turn it up, turn it loose a little bit, crank it up with us. Bud Light Blue Wednesday tomorrow. Brothers in Broad Ripple, our annual event beginning at 3. Texans Colts tickets to give away as well. I shall see you there, James. Thank you very much. Hey, check out Seth Payne, former Texan defensive player, his podcast, but he was on the show earlier. Outstanding. Greg Rakestraw, 2, tomorrow at 3, Brothers in Broad Ripple. Please join us with the ice-cold Bud Light, your chance at Colts tickets, too. 93.5, 107.5 The Fan.